Hey guys, and this month's Kimberbell project is the official cookie tester mug rug. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to take the construction part and the quilting part of the mug rug and bring in different designs to make a different mug rug. So let's get started. So if you purchased one of the kits, it's going to have all the fabric and the felt that you need. And so there's going to be the 3 pieces for the little gingerbread cookies, and then the felt piece for the chocolate chip cookies, and then the 2 pieces for your front, and then the 2 pieces for your back. Now, we were trying to use the fabric that they did in their sample, and so it's the one with the little arrows on it, but we ran out of that, and so all of the kits are going to have this fabric on the front, but then your back fabric is going to vary. But they did theirs and we're doing ours in blue, but if you wanted to do it more in like traditional Christmas colors like red or green, then you have the measurements for the different sizes. So you're going to have 2 sizes of the mug rugs. There's the 5x7 and the 8x12. We're going to do the 8x12, and we cut the kits for the 8x12. Oh, and then your other supplies that you're going to need are going to be your thread, of course. I'm trying to use up some of our red, so I have a few spools that just have a little bit left on them. Kimberbell tape, I'm going to use the 505 glue stick, and then we're using the medium weight cutaway stabilizer. Then you're also going to need either a piece of the project batting or a piece of just regular batting. And then the prep work, you iron some of the SF101 onto the back of your little cotton applique fabrics. And then you want to take your 2 back pieces and press them in half. And I think that's all the prep work. On the machine or on your USB stick, you're going to have the 2 stitch files again, one for the 5x7 and then the other one for the 8x12. And so we're going to do the big one. So we're going to set that design. And again, this is going to be the big one. This is a big mug rug. Now, the first thing that actually shows in the design, besides the placement lines and all that, are going to be the quilting, is the quilting on the white fabric. And I want that to show up a little bit. So I've gone ahead and threaded up with the gray thread. So first thing it's going to stitch out is just going to be the placement line for the piece of batting. Okay, so after it stitches the placement line, this is the placement line for the batting. We're going to lay that down, cover up that placement line, and then it's going to stitch the tack down and then just the little piecing template. Once it's done stitching this, don't trim your batting. This is just tacking it down. And I'm just going to kind of sit here and pet it as it stitches. Okay, so after it stitches the placement line, the lower half is where we're going to be working here at first. And so I'm going to take the white fabric, make sure you do have it right side up, and lay that down on top of that placement line. Just make sure you're covering up the placement line, and then it's going to stitch the tack down. Okay, now that that's tacked down, what it's going to do next is the quilting on the white fabric. And again, I wanted it to show a little bit, so that's why I'm doing it in the gray. So while that's stitching, I was going to show you the Mug Rug Volume 6 is supposed to be coming in just any time. By the time we have the club meeting, we may have them in stock. And Bailey stitched off just a couple of the mug rugs that are in that Volume 6. So there's some really cute ones coming our way. Okay, now I did want to point out on most mug rugs, she goes ahead and she pieces the two pieces together and then does the quilting and everything. But because the little gingerbread men are kind of tucked in on this side, we're going to go ahead and start the applique of the gingerbread men. So what it's going to do first is the placement line for the first little gingerbread, and he is going to be upside down because this is laying in the hoop sideways. Now this is where I'm gonna use the little 505 glue stick. So I'm just gonna take a little piece and dab some of the 505 on there and then lay that down, cover up that placement line, and then it's going to stitch the tack down. Okay, after it tacks that first gingerbread man down, we're going to trim the fabric around him. And then after I trim this, it's just going to go directly into the placement line for the next gingerbread man. So it's going to do the placement line and the tack down for each one before it starts doing any of the faces and the icing and the cover stitch and everything. So I will just finish trimming this down, and I'll finish appliquing or placing the other two gingerbread men, and we'll come back. Now, I am going to stop here. The next gingerbread man is out of this lighter color fabric. I'm not going to put the dab of 505 glue because it goes on the fabric. I'm going to do it right there. Pretty dark, and they say that this will wash out, but if you're not going to be laundering and washing your project, you might see that blue color show through your fabric. So this lighter color fabric, I'm just going to tape that down. And again, you could just hold it with your fingers, but I'm going to go ahead and tape it down, and then it'll stitch the tack down. So I've got all three gingerbread cut out. And so what it's going to start now, we're on step 23 of your instructions, and then it's going to be step 11 on the machine. It's just going to start doing all the little detail in the gingerbread men, and just kind of look and see where the arrows are pointing on each picture, and that's going to show you what's going to be stitching. So if you want to change colors, you can, because like on this one, I may do the dark brown kind of icing on the middle gingerbread man, but I think I want to do the white on here, so I'm going to stop it in between there and change colors. So we're just going to start doing all the little detail stitching now. Okay, so it finished. It stitched the little face and the hearts on the middle gingerbread man, and then the little heart cheeks on this one. And then the next step is where I'm going to stop the machine because I want it to do this step in two different colors. Now, it automatically, when it got done stitching the little hearts over here, it jumped over, and so I know it's going to start stitching the icing detail on this middle gingerbread man next. And so I've gone ahead and I've threaded up with the beige color, but I wanted to show you if you're not sure like the stitch out order, and it may be somewhere that where you want to, you know, stop the machine and change colors. On some of the machines, I'm going to get out of this screen. So I'm going to note that I'm on step 14 here on the stitch out, but I'm going to hit return, And I'm gonna go into this little visual preview up here in the top right hand corner. And then there's a little play icon. I'm going to zoom in also. I can hit play and then hit the little arrow, and it shows me the stitch out order. So it's going to go through all of this pretty fast. Well, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. There's the quilting. There's going to be the placement lines, and so now I'm going to start slowing it down. So there it's doing the cheeks, and then it shows me here it's going to do the icing, and then come over here and do the buttons, and then the icing detail on this one. So you can go into that little preview, and on some of the machines, if you have that play button, that's the needle with the little arrow, you can watch the stitch out process before you actually get into the sewing process. So now I just need to get back to the embroidery screen, and I'm going to forward down to step 14. And I'm going to start stitching out the detail, the icing on the middle gingerbread man, and I'm just going to have to stop it and cut my thread and then change to the white before it jumps over here to this one. Okay, so it's after this one that I'm going to stop it. So I'm going to get my finger up here. I'm going to let it cut the thread, and then I'm going to push the stop button. And it moves over, and it stopped. So now I can rethread with the white and let it finish stitching the detail on this little guy. Okay, the next 3 stitch outs are just the cover stitch that go on top of the applique. And so I went ahead and I did the first 2 in the lighter color brown, and then I'm going to do the darker one in the dark brown. And then when it's done stitching this, then we'll start into the construction of the mug rug. Okay, so now we're into the construction of the mug rug. So what it's going to stitch, and I've threaded up with the blue color. And so it's going to stitch a placement line along the top edge of that white piece of fabric. Okay, and then we're going to take and we're going to trim that fabric off, so the piece that's up above that placement line, there's not a whole lot sticking up there, but enough just to get rid of the bulk. Oh, be careful, don't cut your batting. Okay, then we're going to lay the other background piece, the navy background piece, down. Now, it's showing, I think in the picture, the little arrows are going, so when it's done, the arrows are going that way, from what I can tell. I don't know that it matters which way, because this is a square, so however you want to lay it. I guess I'm going to lay it like that, but you don't lay it like that. I want my arrows going that direction, but we're going to lay it right side down. So you're flipping it over, laying it right side down on top of this white piece of fabric. Get the edge, the top edge, even with the top edge of the white fabric, and even if it's overlapping just a little bit, make sure you're kind of lined up, extending past the placement line here, the tack down there. And then what it's going to sew next is the seam to sew those 2 pieces together. And this is kind of considered like piecing in the hoop, and so that's when we use the little fabric folding pins. And so once it stitches that stitch line or that seam line, I just run that fabric folding pin across that and then flip this piece up. And you know what? I'm even going to take some of my glue stick and kind of put on there just to help hold it down. Smooth that out, and then it's going to stitch a tack down to hold that piece down, and then it's going to go into the quilting. And I decided on this background, I'm doing the quilting in that navy color. I don't really want it to show that much because I'm afraid it would take away from the words that it's going to stitch out here in a little bit. So we're going to do the quilting on this part just in the matching color thread. Okay, and we'll be back when it's done stitching the quilting. Okay, now what it's going to stitch next is the placement line for the little chocolate chip cookies. You could stop there because that's actually just a pretty cute little, it's not a little mug rug. Bailey said it looks like a pot holder, but you could stop there. But we're going to go ahead and finish doing the rest of the design, the official cookie tester words. So it's going to do the placement line for your piece of felt. And this is a raw edge applique. It's not going to do any little cover stitch on the felt. So I've threaded up with the beige color that matches the felt, and instead of taping the felt on, I am going to go ahead and still use the 505 glue stick, because sometimes, you know, when you do the tape, it can pull the fuzzies on your felt. So that's another place where the glue stick is handy. Lay that down, and then it's going to do the tack down. And again, this is going to show because it's a raw edge. Okay, so now I just need to trim my cookies down and be neat about this because, again, it's the raw edge. Okay, what's going to stitch off next is going to be the word cookie and then the little chocolate chip cookies on the felt. So that's, and so I threaded up with the darker brown color thread, and this is going to take about 10 minutes to stitch off. So we will be back. Okay, it finished stitching off cookie, and so what it's going to stitch off next are the words official and then tester, and those are done more in just like a straight stitch font. And so I've threaded up with the white, and it'll take about 3 minutes to stitch this off, so we will come back. Okay, so it finished stitching off the whole design, and now we're ready to for the last stitch out or the last color change, which is going to be sewing the backs on. So we're going to take the two pieces that we folded in half and lay them down. Make sure you're covering up that placement line. The folds are going to be in the center. Make sure the folds are overlapping each other about 1 inch. And then I'm just going to tape down the edges at the top and at the bottom, and then I'm going to take a piece of tape and go all the way across the folded edge there, and just make sure you stick that tape down good, because you don't want your foot to catch on that fold when it's done stitching and the needle comes back to the center of the design. So tape that edge down good. I've rethreaded with the blue. I've put the navy blue back on the machine, and that's the color we'll use for the final seam. Okay, So finished stitching that seam line, and so now we're just gonna remove the tape. That's a pretty big piece of tape. You could save that for something else. And then we're gonna unhoop it and take it out to the cutting table, and we're gonna trim it down. All we're gonna do is use a ruler and our rotary cutter, trim it down about 1/4 inch away from that final seam line, clip the corners, and then we're going to turn it right side out through the opening here. So once we get all that done, we'll come back. Okay, and we got it finished, and it is pretty cute. So again, this one is the 8 by 12, what Bailey called a pot holder size, and then the 5 by 7 size is going to be more like the regular mug rug size. And I like the way when it did the quilting, it looks like this little gingerbread man is holding the little whisk there in his hand. So that turned out perfect. So the design is done, but I wanted to show you one other thing, because I just loved the quilting design for this so much. And it's a good size. You could do it as a pot holder or mug rug or whatever, but I wanted to bring in maybe different designs, use the same basic mug rug construction, but bring in different designs. So on the stellaires and the meridian, the altaires, the solaris and the luminaires and all, you have that no-sew function that kind of helps you do this. So I've brought the design back up. I'm going into the edit screen and then into the no-sew function. And you just scroll through. So like the construction part of the design, I still need all of those steps. And I need the quilting part. But then it starts going into the applique for the gingerbread man. And I want to no-sew those. I want to basically remove those. So when I get to the stitch that I want to remove, I hit this no-sew function down there at the bottom. And then I just keep going through, and I watch up here in my preview screen what I'm selecting, and I keep applying that no-sew function to each part of that. And I'm gonna keep going, and you can kind of see how, whoops, it starts disappearing in a minute. Okay, so there's like the faces, and when I apply that no-sew, the faces disappear. And then that's the icing part of it. And see how it just keeps removing each of those stitch outs that I don't need. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to remove all the gingerbread and then the official cookie tester words. And then we'll come back when I'm done doing that. Okay, so I've removed all of the appliques and all that I didn't want. I went back up, and before it did the official cookie tester, it did have the placement line and everything for when it sewed the two pieces together. So I didn't apply the no-sew feature to those because I need that for the construction of the mug rug. But now I can go back, and what I did is I thought, here a couple years ago there was the We Whisk You a Merry Christmas quilt, and then there's also like the gingerbread, what was it, Ginger's Kitchen, yeah, bench pillow. So there's some cute designs out there. So I went and pulled some of those. So I'm just going to push add, and then I saved them on my USB stick. So you could go get any design that you wanted to put in here. And so there's the Sugar and Spice Makes Holidays Nice. I think that these are from the We Whisk You a Merry Christmas quilt. And so I'm going to bring that one up, set it, and then I just need to rotate it and then move it into position. And then add. I want to add the little mixer. I could do the whisk or the mixer. Bailey thought the mixer was cute. And then I need to rotate it also. And then move it into position, and we're going to let it hang over the pieced edges because that's how they did in the other one. I like that. Now, the only thing is now, those are going to stitch out after, I'm going to get it to the embroidery machine here. Those are going to stitch out last after I do all of the construction for the mug rug. So I'm going to have to do the quilting on here, then attach the other piece and do the quilting on it, then jump past that final construction stitch and start doing my design, and then go back to that final construction stitch. So you will kind of have to move around that final stitch out where you apply the two back pieces to get it to stitch out in the right order. So I just thought that would be a fun idea, just to use this same quilting and the same mug rug construction, but apply different designs, and you can make a whole little set of mug rugs or placemats depending on which size you did. So that's all.